everyone, it's Mr. Smith here, just getting you ready for your exams in the summer by running through the papers with you, starting with language paper one. I'm going to go through each of the questions, give you some hints and tips, and talk you through kind of my thought process as I would tackle this paper. So this is what the front cover will look like. This is what you'd be faced with to begin with. Obviously, you put your centre number, your candidate number in, your surname and your forename, and then you sign it. As you can see here, it says that the paper is split up into two sections, section A and section B. We always advise that you start the paper to answer question 5. The reason for this is it's worth 40 marks, worth half of the paper. So question 5 should be the first question you attempt, and you should take 45 minutes to do that. I'll just scroll straight down to that question so that we can have a look at it. For that question, you will be faced with an image or a story for you to write. The image would be the description question. The story, obviously, would be the narrative question. 40 marks altogether, 24 marks for your content and organisation, and then 16 marks for your technical accuracy. For this question, you should be planning your answer. Now, if you are going to do a description, then you would go with the zoom out, zoom in, flashback, zoom in, zoom out structure. And if you're going to do a narrative, you would have to make the choice between a linear narrative, in media res, or an intersecting narrative. For each paragraph that you plan to do, I would plan your answer. I've marked thousands of these. I'm an AQA examiner, and I've never marked a good one that hasn't been planned first. For your planning section, you should think about what vocabulary you want to use in each of your paragraphs, what sentence varieties you want to use in each of your paragraphs, what punctuation you would like to use in each of your paragraphs, and then kind of a rough idea of what you want to cover in those paragraphs. The best way to do it is using the flashcodes that you've all been taught. So you've got your SV, your sentence variety, which ones are you going to use? You've got your AV, your advanced vocabulary. You've been taught, your vocabulary's been expanded massively in year 11. Use that and get it in there. Like I say, you would spend 45 minutes on that question. 5 minutes would be planning. If you're going to do the story, if you're going to do a narrative, then you need to make sure that your narrative has a clear ending, a clear beginning, and it still has those description skills in there. You make sure that you include the description skills because they are really important in order to kind of set the scene and make your story interesting and engaging. The best answers will be engaging for the reader. You need to make sure you're using writer's methods as well. So some of you have been taught lots of similes, metaphors, extending metaphors, etc. Make sure you get those in there. Really, really important. Okay, once you've completed question 5, you would then go back to look at the reading section of the paper. And you would start that, obviously, by having a read of the extract. Now, the extract will look like this. It will say something on the front, source A, and it will tell you where it's from. Not really much relevance to that. The best thing to do is to get stuck in and start reading it. I would read this extract twice to begin with, just to make sure you have a thorough understanding of it, a thorough idea of what it's saying, what it's asking you to do, etc. This box at the top here, that is just a little bit of an idea about where this extract comes from and what it actually means, where it's taken from. My suggestion for you would be that is not really relevant. That's only relevant to kind of set the scene of the extract. The relevant parts are the extract itself, and you'll see down the left-hand side it's got line numbers. The line that starts with a 1 on it, that is the first line that you can actually use in your answer. Okay, so I would read through the extract, and then you'd flip back to the question paper, and you would have a look at question 1. Question 1 is worth 4 marks, and it will ask you to identify 4 things from the extract, usually from the start of the extract. In this case, it's from lines 1 to 4. I've seen it from lines 1 to 9 in the past, etc. But it's just 4 things about a certain topic in the extract. Some top tips for this, as I said, you cannot take it from this box at the top. It has to be from line 1 onwards. as you can see on the extract there. This has to be explicit as well. It cannot be implied. So, for example, if it says that the jungle is big and the jungle is wide, you cannot then infer that the jungle is also scary or intimidating. You have to say the jungle is big, the jungle is wide. Other than that, it's a fairly simple question to kind of get your thought process going, to get you understanding what's going on in this extract. Okay? You should spend roughly between this and reading 8 minutes. 8 minutes to read and answer question 1 there. You then move on to question 2, for which you have 12 minutes on this question. And this is worth 8 marks. It is a language question, so it's asking you to analyse the language in the extract. There will be the part of the extract that you are looking at will be reprinted for you in this booklet, so you don't need to flip back to the other extract if you don't want to. You can do your analysis on here. The steps to success that I would take for this. Firstly, step 1, I would highlight the focus of the question. So in this case, we've got how does the writer use language here to describe the garden? I would be highlighting the garden because I know that that is what it is asking me to analyse, how that is being described. I would then try to look for some methods in the extract that prove this, that show that how the garden's being described and what impression that gives me as the reader. I would go through, I would think about which quotes stand out, which ones can be used together. Some top tips for this. If you are analysing this extract, then the examiner wants to see that you can see this as a whole. So looking at semantic field is a very good tip for this. So picking out 2 or 3 adjectives or verbs or nouns that all kind of relate to the same topic or the same idea and give you, as the reader, a certain impression. This will show that you have a thorough understanding of the extract itself. My other top tip would be to look at connotations of individual words. So once you've done, or you're midway through your paragraph, you just looked at the semantic field of, in this case, it could be danger, and then you could then do a paragraph of one, an addition to your paragraph of one word in detail, looking at the connotations and what impression that gives you as the reader. For this question and for all the language questions, you should be thinking about what does this extract make me think, what does it make me feel, and what does it make me imagine? That is incredibly important for all of these questions on language paper 1. That is how you know that you are talking about the effect on you as the reader, because after all, you are the reader. You can also pick out things like metaphors, similes, personification, etc. But adjectives, verbs, nouns, adverbs, absolutely fine as well. You should be putting that into 2 paragraphs then in your response, or aiming for 2 paragraphs. But remember, you have 12 minutes and timing is massively important. Next then, we're moving on to the structure question. And again, this is looking at the extract as a whole. For this question, you need to talk about what the writer is focusing on at the beginning of the extract, what he shifts the focus to after, and then finally a third shift in focus in the extract. The chances are there will be more shifts than this in the extract, which is absolutely fine. You don't have to talk about them all. You just have to talk about shifts that you've noticed. How has the writer shifted the focus? Now, that could be from the description of a character to the description of a room. It could be the description of a character to something that they're doing. It could be the description of a character to an interaction with another character. Whatever it may be, the most important thing is to think about why the writer has done it. What effect is the writer trying to get by shifting the focus from one thing to another? Is it to create tension? Is it to create a sense of unease? You need to have a think about how you are affected as the reader by these shifts in focus. The next thing that's really important for this question is to think about the extract overall. If you can talk about whether this is a cyclical extract or if it's a linear extract or if it's in media res, then you are going to get extra marks. It's really important to think about what the actual overarching kind of structure of the paragraph is, of the extract is, but also what effect it has on you as a reader again. Okay, and then question 3 should be put into 4 paragraphs. It should be beginning, middle, end, and then overall. Each one should have a quote or a reference. It doesn't have to be an actual quotation. It could just be a reference to a part of the text. Absolutely fine as well. And as this question is also worth 8 marks, it should take another 12 minutes as well. So that should be roughly 22 minutes so far that you've had on this part. Sorry, 32 minutes you've had on this part of the paper. Obviously, I'm not a mathematician. And that will give you 28 minutes left then to have a go at question 4. The reason why you give yourself that much time for question 4 is because it's worth 20 marks, which is a quarter of the paper. You would follow the same process as you did for question 2. So you would read the question carefully and then you would underline the focus. First thing to notice there is that you should be looking from lines 24 to the end. That might not be 24 to the end for your question. It might be 25 to the end, somewhere in the middle to the end. That will be identified for you, but highlight that just so you know which part of the text you are looking at. You're then given a statement that will read something like this. A student said, "I wasn't at all surprised by the disappearance of the strange child at the end of the extract. The writer has left us in no doubt that she is just part of Rosie's imagination. To what extent do you agree?" My thought process would be this. Step 1, I would highlight the focuses of the statement. So the stranger child being surprised by the stranger child's disappearance, and then part of Rosie's imagination would be the two things I would highlight. You then have to prove those using language. So you follow the same kind of ideas that you would for question 2. What methods can you identify? Can you identify a semantic field? Is there any connotations in there that you could talk about? And again, using metaphors, similes, adjectives, verbs, anything like that, just prove that those things that it says in that statement are either correct or incorrect. You can agree or disagree. I would choose one argument all the way through. So if you choose to agree, then that should be all your paragraphs should be agree. If you disagree, then all your paragraphs should disagree. In addition, remember you must be thinking about how it makes you think, feel, and imagine as the reader. This is all about the effect on you as the reader. That is incredibly important. So have a think about how you are affected as the reader for this question. This obviously, like I say, was 28 minutes, and you should be aiming for 3 paragraphs here. If you want to plan this question, then you have 2 or 3 minutes where you could plan out your ideas. There is no, it's not as important to plan this question as it is for question 5, but it might just focus your ideas if you do plan it out. I would start with a clear focus, so something that you're going to argue all the way through. I agree with the statement because, etc., etc. And then I would look to analyse the language. Again, I'll say this for the 5th time in this video. Please remember, how does it make you think, feel, or imagine as the reader? You should be writing for the whole time on this paper. There is no spare time. It's really, really tight to get this finished in the time that's provided. The exam board know that. They're not very nice with it, but it is what it is. But you've all been given the opportunity to practice this. You all have the ability to do it. And I know that you will do well if you make sure you follow kind of the processes that we've talked about in this video. See you in the next one.